What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we have another interview, I guess, recap. But this time around, we're talking about cities and regionals, and this is with Luke. And Luke actually played the Mega Scizor deck, and this is the standard list that he used for cities. He made it really far in the tournament. Don't want to give away what he made as of right now, but if you want to see his expanded list, click the link down below. We actually did his list yesterday and expanded Thursday. The only difference is he told us to change this beforehand. He'd cut the Dedini and a Giovanni scheme for 2 Mega Turbos, and that's his expanded list. So if you want the expanded list, the exact one, take out the 2 Mega Turbos from yesterday, added the Dedini and a Giovanni scheme, and you have the same list that he played for regionals. But make sure you pay attention to this interview if you want to learn everything about Mega Scizor. The first time I heard about this, I definitely thought he was playing the Bronzong variant, but it turns out he is not. This one is the Mega Scizor Garbodor deck. Mega Scizor with the Iron Crusher 120, discard a special energy or stadium card in play. It plays like Skyla, Zerose, Reverse Valley, so you do 10 more damage to the active, or you take 10 less damage, sorry, you take 10 less damage, which is great. He talks about how good of a deck it is, and then this one he played first at Cities, and then he played it for regionals, and you can see the difference in his list when you click the link down below if you want to see it. But make sure you check it out. But Luke did give us a lot of information about Mega Scizor and why it's such a great deck. He talks about the Bunnelby, he talks about the Garbodor, and it's a really good deck if you're looking for states. Their last cities was legal with Breakpoint, so that's why he got to play with Mega Scizor and the Garbodor. So make sure you check it out. Hopefully you enjoy this interview, and like I said, down below will be a link to Expanded Thursday where we can see his deck list for the regionals. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the interview, and let's see it right now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we have another recap, and this time around it's actually regionals and cities. But what's your name?
It's Luke Kirkham.
Alright, and I know just a second ago we saw 2 different lists. It was standard and expanded. Which one do you want to go over first?
I'll go with standard first because that was the week.
Okay. Alright, so what happened to Swiss?
So I played the Scizor deck. My reasoning to play it was that my first ever top cut came from the Boundaries Cross Scizor. So I said when the new Scizor came out that I would have to play it, no matter how good or bad it was, just for nostalgia purposes. And I came up with the Scizor Garbodor list. It was nothing special, but in standard, nothing can really one-shot Mega Scizor. Night March, you have resistance against the Pumpkaboos and 220 HP, plus the Stadium, which reduces 10 damage, which means you basically, nothing's one-shotting you. So it's quite tanky. You're hitting 120, discarding energies or Stadiums, slowing things down. So I thought I'd give it a go with Garbodor as well. It gives you an out to Giratina so that you can hit them as well. So I thought I'd give it a go. It was the last cities of the UK. It was in Sheffield. It was quite a big city. There was I think 63 players. We were one short from the 64 mark for top 16 points, which is typical. There was a few problems starting up on the beginning of the day, so we actually, instead of playing best of 3, they put it to best of 1 last minute, which was a bit unfortunate because some people obviously like to change their decks in different best of 1s and best of 3s, but these things happen, so we sort of rolled with it. Round 1, I played a guy called Jason who was playing Trevenant Break. And Trevenant Break on first thought, I thought this could be quite a bad matchup. It locks me out. It's a bit difficult, but you hit good numbers. 120 damage. Obviously, you one-shot in Trevenants and Shamans. So what I did in this matchup was I just sort of got my Scizor active with 2 energy. I landed up a Shaman, Spirit Link Mega Evolve. I'm taking 2 prizes. I'm getting rid of his Dimension Valley so that he can't attack next turn with Trevenant or Trevenant Break, and it just slows them down. If they're trying to trap with Trevenant, you get rid of their special energy, the DCE, so it slows them down. You have resistance, and then obviously you can get rid of their D-Valleys yourself. So he didn't draw very well, I'll be honest. He didn't get set up that well, so it was fairly comfortable for me. Round 2, I played against who was a local player. They played Gyarados Palkia. Again, it was this guy sort of overcommitted. Turn 2, he got his hand, he put down Remoraid, Ultra Ball his hand down to 0 for an Octillery. Bear in mind, I went first and got a Trubbish down, so I searched for the Garbodor Floatstone. He had nothing, and just sort of two-shot him from there. Round 3, I played against Greninja Break. Now, obviously, this was a new deck, and I only built the Scizor deck the night before, so I hadn't had much chance to test much with it and really give it a good go. So, Greninja Break, I knew basically as soon as I get Garbodor out, if they can't deal with it, it's pretty much game over. Because obviously the whole damage output, the whole deck revolves around Greninja and Greninja Break's ability. I managed to get a turn 2 Garbodor, hitting him with Scizors and one-shotting him. Giovanni as well makes you do 140, so you can one-shot the Greninjas. And I won fairly convincingly. He hit me a couple of times. I think he got one knockout with some Miltanks, but it took him about 4 hits because I was using Centre Lady as well to heal myself up when I can and needed to. Round 4 was a very interesting game. So, as you see on my list, I played one Bunnelby. And my theory behind Bunnelby was, because it's quite a tanky deck, nothing's one-shotting you. People are two-shotting you best, and you can Centre Lady or AZ and pick things back up. People are going to commit a lot of resources to try and get knockouts. And if people overcommit and get a bit sloppy, then you can obviously borrow them for game, sort of late on when they've, in the last couple of turns, if they've got a couple of cards left in deck. I played against Reese Williams, who's a good player. He's got his Worlds invite this year. He was playing Speed Tina, so with Max Elixir, Reshiram, Double Dragons, going for sort of the turn 1 Giratina. He also likes to play sort of weird and wonderful decks, and it was a fairly even match. He had the momentum because he got these I got my Mega Scizors out, and he killed my Trubbish and Garbodor the turn they came onto the field with Chaos Wheel. So I was having to attack with either the Baby Scizor or Lysander up and kill around it. But because I played Xerosic, every time he dropped his Double Dragon Energy, I was just using my Xerosic to get rid of it and force him to have to really dig. And then he drops a Bunnelby, which I didn't expect after I got rid of all his Double Dragon Energies, and puts two back in. But crucially, next turn he Sycamores and puts his deck down to 2 cards left in deck. And I'm sitting here with an Ultra Ball and an Energy in my hand, so I knew it was in my deck, so I checked in the game. Ultra Ball for Bunnelby, drop it down, burrow the 2 last cards away in his deck and get the game. He didn't see it come in, and I'm quite glad I put Bunnelby in. Although I only really used it at one game, it won me a game, so I got my use out of it for the day. And round 5 and 6, because I was 4-0, I just did 2 IDs, knowing that 402 would get me into cut. So that was fairly straightforward. A nice little break in between sort of 4 and top 8. Now in top 8, anyone from the UK and anyone who's got me on Facebook will probably know, my little brother aged up to Masters this year. He got top 22 in Europe in seniors last year, so he's a good player and he's improving a lot with each tournament pretty much. I'm sort of really pleased with how he's been doing. But the problem we've had this year is he's made top 8 in, I think it's 1 regionals and 5 cities, so 6 events. And every time in top 8, apart from 1, he's got me in top 8. And it's just been so frustrating. It really has, because it's like it's a conspiracy. Every time I play him in top 8, it's like, give me a break. He was playing Night March. He goes first. He gets a pretty good setup turn 1. I just do the sort of basic 20 damage with Scizor. Turn 2, I don't really have massive amounts going on, but I've got a couple of Scizor down and a fairly good board. And turn 2, he goes nuts. He gets his deck down to about 10 cards. He plays Town Map, he's got no DCE prize, and he whiffs the DCE. So all 4 is DCE in his last 10 cards. And if he gets that, he gets a knockout. I've got no momentum, nothing to return. I think he wins that game. Unfortunately, I get the knockout. I then start getting into the stadiums and the Joltics when they come down, forcing him to have to use his time puzzles on other things other than DCE. He actually whiffs DCE the next turn as well, because he can't afford to Sycamore for decking out, which is just really unfortunate. And I managed to win that game. And then game 2, he doesn't really get much going, and I sort of win that one a bit more comfortably. But it's a horrible feeling playing against him, because if I win, I win. If I lose, it's great as well. But you want to win, but it's just a horrible feeling. I'd rather not play him in top 8 every single time he cuts. But it's going to happen. If he's doing well and I'm doing well, it's bound to happen.
True.
So the top 8 for me was very crazy. So I have 2 housemates that I live with. Tamal Cameron, I know you've interviewed him before. He's a very good UK player. and James Hart. Now James hasn't been playing that long. He likes to play sort of fun decks. He's played Night March a lot, even back before it sort of became big, before Worlds last year. Now the day before the tournament, I've played some weird and wonderful stuff, and I've actually built a deck which I did a video on, which was Houndoom, Vileplume, Mill. So you hear it and think, what does that even do? But you basically get turn 1 Vileplume, and you start milling with Houndoom and Bunnelby. You play 3-0-6, 3 Flare Guns, you deny them with energy and mill them. Because they're under trainer lock, most of the time they have to Juniper, or sorry, Sycamore, to get resources. So they have to burn through their own deck just to attack, and then you get with their energies. And it was actually, like, I built it as a bit of fun, but when I've been testing it, it was super strong. And James, the night before, decided to pick this deck up, and he managed to get himself to his first top cut with it. He won his top 8 match against Trevenant Break, which was a super close game. It came down to 1 turn both times, and then he played against me in top 4. Now, unfortunately, because I knew it was my list, I built it. I knew exactly what was in there and what to expect and what the counts were. And because I played it a little bit and tested that deck against other stuff, I kind of knew how to beat it. So it was a bit unfortunate that he got me. I just sort of powered up one Scizor with about 6 or 7 energy on and just sort of two-shot everything in his deck, and he didn't really have any answer. Game 2, I get a Scizor active, but he starts Lysander. I had to use Hooper to get going, so he starts Lysandering around it and stuff, and I don't get Garbodor out in either game. I don't get the chance. He sort of mills the Garbodor or the Float Stones away. I managed to get a turn where I get Hex, and I've got this Hooper active. I managed, and I have 2 Mega Turbo in my hand, because my Mega Scizor's only got 1 energy on. So I managed to Hex, Float Stone, retreat, double Mega Turbo, attach, and then hit him for 120, and it kind of swings it back in my favour then, because I'm knocking out, and you can't really deal with the big basics, sort of piling energy on, and I managed to win that one. Well, it was a fun game. I'm really pleased for him that he made top 4 finally on his getting his first championship points, and with a fun deck as well. When people are playing against it, like, what does this even do? What do I do against this? And it catches people off guard. It's cool. And then in the final, I play against my other housemate, Tamal. So in the 63-man cities, my top 8 is my little brother and my 2 housemates, which is unusual, but these things happen. And Tamal's playing Toad, Red Card, Silent Lab, which has got to be the most boring deck I've ever played against, apart from the sort of Toad shaming last year at Nationals sort of time. I attack, I think, with Mega Scizor once in both games. I just lose. He Toad, Red Card, Silent Lab, and I just can't draw out of it in any of the games. I managed to get 1 attack off. There's 1 turn where he attacks me again. He has 2 crushing hammers, and if he misses both of them, I will probably win that game, because I'll get attacked next turn regardless. He's running out of hammers, and off he goes. But he gets 1, which 50% chance he's going to get 1 most of the time anyway. So he gets rid of that, and that's pretty much game over then. So he just Quaking punches me and benches me quite quickly, and that was over. That was the end of Scizor's crazy run.
I mean, but still, making that far with Scizor is great.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, in cities I had 2 wins and 2 top 4s, so I basically was either having to play something really serious and go for it, or just play something fun and see what happens. And I played something fun, and I'll be honest, I didn't expect to get to the final with it. It was better than I thought it would be, and which later inspired me to play it the following week and expanded.
Okay, before we talk about regionals, let's talk about the list just a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you make any changes to the list that you have right now?
In standard, I mean, Garbodor was fairly useful. It has, against certain decks, it was pretty good, but it didn't do that much. The one deck I really needed it against was Giratina, and as soon as Trubbish or Garbodor came out, Lysander and killed, so it didn't actually have much use there. I'd perhaps play around and see what other stuff you could combo Scizor with. I'm sure there's some fun and weird stuff that you can play with Scizor and make it quite good. With Garbodor, against, if there's a lot of sort of ability decks, Greninja or anything like that, then it is very strong, but if there's not, it just doesn't do enough.
Okay, now, besides your finals, did you think the deck had any bad matchups?
Um, I was hoping to avoid any Entei Charizard.
Okay.
I think that is pretty much an auto loss. You can't really beat that. It was like my ECC. I ended up playing Mewtwo, and as long as I avoided Night March, I thought I was confident I'd do well. I'd won the cities with it. Sorry, 2 cities with Mewtwo, so I felt quite confident. And unfortunately, it happened. But on the day, I think there was one Entei in the whole room, and it didn't have a very good start. So I was quite relieved to avoid it.
Okay. Now, looking forward to regionals, why did you decide to still play the Scizor deck?
It was the night before. Me, Corey, Tamara, were all around my house. We were doing some testing. I was building lists, playing decks, and absolutely nothing I found I enjoyed playing and felt was strong. I played Yveltal, I think, at one tournament ever. My little brother was playing that, so I didn't really want to play Yveltal. Um, as you probably see from the 2 lists I've played, and the fact I played Houndoom and Volplume previously, I like to play stuff that are a bit different and a bit wacky. Not always, like for Worlds I played Night March, but I like to play stuff that's a bit different. So I was trying some decks. Last year I played Mewtwo, Wobbuffet Bats, and won the cities, and I thought, right, maybe that's time to come back, because Wobbuffet's really strong in Expanded, but I couldn't get that to work quite right for me. So I thought, right, let's give Scizor a go. I tried it with Garb as before originally, but the damage output was just too low and Expanded. With Dark Patch, Laser Bank, Yveltal can just overrun you with pressure, and you don't really have much of an answer. So I thought, right, well, the maths for Scizor with Laser Verbank is 120, goes up to 150, and then 180 coming back into your turn. So if they can't retreat it, if they have to attack with it or leave it active, it will die coming back into your turn, which gives you a fresh attacker, and then obviously it's good because you take 2 prizes and you have a chance to set up another chain of that. Probably the MVP card for me the whole weekend was Absol. It was insane because a lot of decks play Caldeo Floatstone, so you can do your 150, 120 plus 30 Laser Verbank. They're rushing and retreating, get rid of that. You can then hit into something else, and then out of nowhere you drop an Absol, take 2 prizes, and possibly hit somewhere else and take a KO as well. So it was really strong. Scoop Up Cyclone allowed me to reuse it as well as AZ. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it was just, I thought it was a bit of fun, but we tested it against Yveltal a couple of times, and it beat Yveltal a couple of times. And I thought, wow, this has got some potential behind it. So I thought I'd give it a go and see how it went.
All right. So how'd it go?
So round 1, I play against a friend, Danny Hynam. Now, one deck that I thought was a bad matchup was Groudon Wobbuffet, and lo and behold, I get it round 1. Round 1, I managed to win game 1 somehow. Basically, the win condition now I saw quite quickly was, obviously they're dependent on stadiums to get knockouts on Scizors. So I put down the Laser Verbank round 1, turn 1. He countered it with a Beach. I then countered it again turn 2. He then countered it again, so obviously stopped the poison because he would die coming back into my turn, which means I'll have a fresh attacker. And then I hit with Mega Scizor and discard his stadium. So at this point, 2 stadiums are gone. I power up on my bench another 2 Mega Scizors, get them ready. And as soon as he attacks me with Groudon, he discards his own stadium. I then send a Mega Scizor forward, play N, and just basically win the 2-shot war. He has to 2-shot me, I have to 2-shot him, but I attack first, which means that I'll get the KO first. Unfortunately for him, his 4th Beach was actually prized, so he never managed to get it out, so I managed to squeak game 1. And the good thing is as well, you can discard their strong energies. They need the strong to attack and do the KO on Mega Scizor, even if they have the stadium. So if Scizor's attack, you can discard the strong energies, which puts them at even less damage output. Game 2, he gets set up, he gets a sort of a turn 3 or 4 Groudon quite quickly, and I don't really get much of a say in that because he doesn't use any of his stadiums. He managed to knock out using one of my Verbanks, which I tried to put some pressure on early with, so I lose that one fairly comfortably. There's not really much of an answer once they get going. Then game 3, I think we played a couple of turns. You know, Groudon isn't the quickest deck, so time was called, and we both got a couple of Pokemon down, called it a tie, and that was the end of that. Round 2, I played against a guy called Sheldon. He's a South African player. He's recently moved to the UK. Really nice guy. He's been doing fairly well recently. I think he made top 8 on the day um, in the end at Blackpool. He was playing Vision Genesect with Max Elixirs. Now, this is one deck that I tested the night before, and I just couldn't quite feel comfortable with, so I went with some other stuff. But we'll come on to that. So I win game 1. He doesn't really know what Mega Scizor does. He's a bit confused, and I managed to get both games. I managed to get a laser Verbank, that 30 damage turn 1, or when he hasn't attached energy to the active, is so big in terms of Absol later in the game. I hit 120, do some more damage changing. I managed to basically get a couple of knockouts, get my final prize off Shaman. He doesn't really get much of a setup game 1, I'll be honest. He doesn't do a massive amount. Game 2, I had to discard my Super Rod and a Mega sort of turn 1 just to get set up, which puts me a bit of a disadvantage. We trade a couple of prizes. He takes 2 knockouts on Mega Scizors. I've managed to take 4 prizes. He's got on his bench. He's got a Vrisium EX with 120 damage on. So I send up a Hooper with a Floatstone on. My Scizor attach energy to my Scizor EX, so that it can do the 110. I Ultra Ball for the Absol, move 30 damage onto the Genesect. I Skylift for Scoop Up Cyclone, pick it up, move another 30 damage on, retreat it to Scizor and hit it for 110 and knock it out. And he was like, "Where did that come from?" He didn't see it coming at all. It didn't occur to me at first where the mass was coming from, and then I sort of did the check with an Ultra Ball that I had Scoop Up Cyclone in deck, not prize, and it was there. So I managed to get the win that way, sort of with a sneaky Scizor, because I had no Megas left, so I had to do it that way, which was cool, and it was fun as well. He's sort of like, wow, okay, and that's why I think Absol was sort of the MVP for the day. And then lo and behold, round 3, I'm against my brother again. Now he's playing sort of Yvettal list. It's a straight Yvettal list, no delayed or Archie-ups. It's just consistency. He got to the final of the cities the week before with it, the day before Sheffield, and I think he top cut every cities he went to and played the list. So he was feeling confident. He was looking forward to the matchup, because I know if he gets set up, because he plays energy switch in his list, which a lot of people don't anymore. But it just means that he can get knockouts from nowhere, which you don't see coming, because you get Dark Patch, energy switches onto Pokemon, and do some weird and wonderful things. And game 1, this game was actually recorded on stream by Ross Gilbert, so I'm sure he'll be posting that up at some point, so you can have a look. Game 1 is quite a close game. I get a bit of a slower setup than him. He does some energy switch, Dark Patch shenanigans, and laser Verbank, and knocks out a Mega Scizor from fresh that I just didn't see coming at all. It kind of puts me on the back foot. He sort of wins a game 1. Game 2 again is fairly close, but I managed to just squeeze that out. And then game 3, we have a couple of turns and time is called. There's no way for either of us to take enough prizes, and at this point as well, I played Corey 5 of the 6 top 8s he's made, and I've beat him every time, unfortunately. So I was like, right, okay, if I give you the win here, I'll be 1-1-1, and if I win out, I can still make cut. So it also puts him in a better position to make cut. So I gave him the win there. I think he deserved it, because I think he was in a better position than me game 3, and he probably would have taken it if we had the time to finish it. So it felt fair to do that. Round 4, I play against a local player with my record in 1-1-1. I have some matchups against players that are less experienced and perhaps don't play as much, more sort of for a fun side. So I don't have such a tough running sort of the top tables with sort of the top world's players. So I play against a local guy, Lucario Bats, really nice guy. I get a couple of knockouts on Lucario or Landorus with Laser Verbank coming back into my turn, and it just sort of swings the matchups, and I managed to do that both games and take prizes with Shaman. So he didn't actually play any Focus Sash, which was annoying, because I had to get rid of lasers quite early in one of the games, and Focus Sash could have messed me up with the maths with Horlucha, but he didn't actually play any, so it was fairly close in that game 2, because I sort of burnt through too much, but I managed to squeak the win. Round 5, I play against national champion from a couple of years ago, Scott Burgess. He's playing a Tyrantrum Bronzong deck. Now, coming into this, if they play sort of Muscle Band Giovanni or Muscle Band Faded Town, they can one-shot my Mega Scizors with Torrentium, and I thought, oh, I hadn't even factored this in at all. I didn't even expect this deck to still be fairly popular. Um, both, I win game one. I get a turn one, gets this sort of set up better than him. It was fairly quick game. He wins games two. He gets the knockouts. He gets Giratina going. I cannot get my Hex Maniac for love nor money, and with his Caldio and his own Float Stone, I'm just not doing enough damage. And he does that. And then game three, we agreed beforehand. Game three, who's ever ahead on prizes will take the win because the tie does nothing for either of us. So we play it out, and he gets a bit of a slower start than me. I get a knockout with someone coming back into my turn, which kind of swings the mass again in my favour, and I managed to take an extra 2 prizes in him on the last turn. So he gives me the win, which is very nice, and it was fair. We agreed it, and it was all good. Round 6, I play against Joseph Phillip, nice guy from Scotland. Got qualified for Worlds last year again. Another good player. He's playing Mega Manetric Garb. Now, Mega Manetric can be quite tough because they do resist steel. So you're only doing a base 100. It has 210 HP. It also plays Rough Seas, so it can turn the mass quite unfortunately. However, both games he starts Lone Trubbish and passes. And I get the donk sort of turn 2 with Laser Verbank both games and a Scizor. It's really unfortunate. It's not a nice way to win, but these things happen. I've had it happen against me before where you sort of get double donked, and it happens. I mean, I think he ended up getting top 16, which secured him his invite, so he got what he was going for anyway. And then round 7, I play against a good friend of mine, Scott Simmons. He got top 4 at the ECC recently. I'm quite good friends with him. I go up and stay with him, and I give him some of my deck lists, and he's a very good player. He's improved a lot over this season. He's now becoming, he may be a poker dad, but he's one of the top players sort of in the UK, as proved by getting top 4 in Europe. He's first after Swiss in day 1, playing Mega Mewtwo. Really good player. Now, I don't know how popular Getsis is in USA at all. If it's quite big and expanded, if you can.
Sometimes it is. It's a hit or miss.
Yeah, because in the UK there was a point where a lot of decks were basically item-based draw decks, and so turn 1 gets this just wins your games because your turn 1 gets this, you get rid of their items. If they've got low support accounts, they're unlikely to have a supporter. Basically, they have to have a supporter or a shaman, otherwise they just lose, or a Jirachi, something like that. Game 1, he starts Lone Manetric. I go first, get an energy, Spirit Link, Laser Verbank. He gets nothing else. I get the turn 2 knockout, which with a Mega Scizor and a laser damage. Game 2 is a really long game. This was on stream by Ross. There comes a point where there's 150 damage on his bench for Vizian, and there's, I'm just doing maths, 100. There's about 130 damage. I can't remember the exact mass on an active Mega Manetric. Now, I played Colress for 10. If I get an Absol and a laser, I can move the damage onto Vizian, knock that out, play the laser, and KO it with Mega Scizor for a double knockout that turn. I get the Absol, but unfortunately with the laser, which kind of then means I have to use Absol to put damage on the active Mega Manetric to knock it out. But he has another one fully charged and just sort of swings back then. And I lose that game. And then game 3, turn 1, a Hooper, Scizor, Caldio, Jirachi. Jirachi forgets this. His hand is sort of 3 energy, Spirit Link, an Ultra Ball, Battle Compressor, and a VS Seeker, something like that. I get rid of his hand, and again, I get Laser Verbank turn 1 and donk him turn 2. I mean, gets this turn 1 in this format just seems insane. I've lost when I played Blastoise a lot earlier in the season, expanded. Turn 1 gets this, it's just pretty much game over.
Yeah, for sure.
It's such a strong card, and I know there's a Mega Ray deck as well with very few support accounts. If you can turn 1 gets this or hex them, you can shut them down. And Mega Man, what I did, as you see in my list, I used to play perhaps less supporters and more things like Trainer's Mail and things like that. But because Gets This, everyone play, I say everyone, most people in the UK play Gets This, and they go for it turn 1 if they can. So I cut down on that and just put more supporters in, just to try and counter them and balance that out a bit more, because it just loses games turn 1. So I managed to win that one and on to top eight.
All right, you excited you made a top 8 with Scizor?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited because and the week before I thought I'd play it a bit of fun, did well. I thought, great, this has got potential, but I actually thought it could do quite well in expanded with the mass. Obviously, the 180 coming back into your turn is huge. The problem is obviously Caldio Floatstone is pretty much in most meta decks with your Vettel and things like that.
True.
Um, so yeah, I'm really pleased. It was such a fun deck to play as well. It was strange enough. You look at the list and it perhaps doesn't shout out ultra consistency, but it was one of the most consistent decks I've played in a long time. I drew dead sort of. Well, I'll come on to that in a moment, but I didn't drew dead at all during Swiss really. Uh, Hooper is just an insane card for EX and Mega decks. It's the consistency with that is so good, and I'm quite pleased I went up with Scoop Up Cyclone. I was debating Computer Search. Um, I know a lot of people will probably look at that and think, okay, but its utilities are so good because if someone does 120, 180, 200 damage to a Scizor, Mega Scizor or something, and you just pick it up and heal it, it's basically you can cost them 2 turns of basically do nothing for 2 turns because you nullify all the damage and effort they've put in and take knockout. So it's also good with Absol. Say win me that game against Sheldon earlier in the day, so it was cool.
All right.
So yeah, sorry, carry on.
I was gonna say what happened in top 8.
Top eight. I believe you've already interviewed Oliver Barnett. Yeah, I played Oliver Barnett top eight. Um, I knew that he played Gallade and Archeops, so I was a bit worried about Archeops. I did have Hex and Jirachi, so I do have an out to Hex in at the right time. But unfortunately, he doesn't get Archeops out in either game. Game one is a really close game. He has a better start. I managed to pull it back with some knockouts. Before I knock you battle again, you have to Hex or Lysander around it to Mega Evolve, which was really frustrating. Um, and I managed to just about win out game one. I think it came down to, and then I needed to get the Lysander for game. I did have sort of a trainer's mail, 2 VS Seeker and a Lysander in about an 8 card deck, so I knew my odds of hitting it were quite high. I get it off the N and get the Lysander for a Shaman for game. I believe he had win next turn, so I needed to get it that turn, otherwise it was game over. Game two, he gets a bit of a slower start. He doesn't really get much going. He sort of commits a lot of energy to one Yveltal. I drop a Dedenne, which I played last week, but I don't. Other than that one time, I didn't use it the whole weekend. It just didn't do enough for me. But unfortunately, he puts 5 energy down to get a knockout on a Scizor. I return it with Dedenne, and then he just has nothing left, and I'll sort of win in the next couple of turns. And then on to top 4, I play. Becoming my arch nemesis, Ryan Morehouse. The last regional in the UK, in the 4 regionals, we played in top 4 of that as well. I played Manectric Bats, he played Yveltal, Gallade, Max's deck, and what's becoming quite a feature of our games is we don't really have games, if that makes sense. One of us draws dead, and lately it's been me. Earlier on in the season, it was Ryan drawing a bit more dead, but more recently it's been me. And game 1, I start Lone Jirachi. He turn 2, I have to Colress for 4. He gets a turn 1 Archie up, so it's already immense pressure. He gets a turn 2 knockout. I Colress for 4, I get nothing, and then he sort of White Cyclones my Jirachi. Game 2, bear in mind I've seen Ryan play a couple of times. I sat next to him in top 8. I've watched a few games, so I kind of knew what to expect in this deck. Game 2, I get a really good setup. Turn 1, I get 2 Scizors down, 2 Spirit Links, some energy, Laser Verbank, Caldio Floatstone, a really good sort of board presence. And then he doesn't get the turn 1 Archeops either, which is great. He has to Sycamore. But one thing that I didn't see all day, and I saw him play a couple of games, he was digging and digging, and I couldn't quite figure out what he was digging for. And he gets it, and he drops his Tool Scrapper. Gets rid of both my Spirit Links. I only play 3 in the deck. My third one's prized, and I really struggled then. I do manage to get down to 2 prizes. I end him to 2. I would have had a win next turn from what I got off the N, but he gets the Computer Search off the N for game. He had a fairly small deck, so it wasn't sort of improbable that he would get one of his outs, but it's just always against Ryan. Lately, I just seem to draw absolute rubbish, and he draws one. It's frustrating because Ryan is an exceptional player. And it'd be nice to have some good competitive games and sort of battle it out. But at the moment, it just seems to be that one of us draws dead. I remember a league challenge we played earlier this year. We were both as Lucario bats mirror, sort of right at the beginning of the season, and basically turn one, I donked him. Game one, sort of turn two. He then donked me, lone hole lucha, and then he donked me again, lone hole lucha, game three. And it's just like we had like 4 turns between us in the whole game. It was crazy.
I mean, top four, second place, Scizor. I mean, I wouldn't believe it. You know what I mean? It's still crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I'm really sort of pleased. It's kind of put the pressure on now because I am chasing sort of top 22 in Europe. So it's put the pressure on. I now have to get to a final of regionals to get any points, and it's a nice pressure to have, a nice position to be in. But the points total I'm at basically means I need a top four at nationals still, even with the points I'm at now. It's crazy.
How many points are you at right now?
755.
Not enough for top 22, and that's still crazy to me.
I mean, you need to get around the 1,000 mark to get top 22 rounds. Last year, I think the cutoff was 920, but there's more points available for nationals this year, so it puts the pressure on. I think it'll be sort of around 970 to 1,000 this year.
It's crazy
Which
still.
Intense. Really.
But
we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it.
I guess the question is, you going to keep playing Scizor, or are you going to eventually switch?
Well, as I say, I have to get to the final now to get any points. People kind of know what Scizor does. That surprise factor's been taken away, even though I think it's a really strong deck. I've got a couple of regionals left in the UK and expanded. I'm also going to France for a weekend where they've got double standard regionals. So I'll play Scizor at both at one of those each time, one standard and one expanded. And I'll try and find something else to play. I might revolt back to Houndoom Volplume. Give that a go.
Please, yeah, that'd be amazing. I love Valplum. Anything with Valplum makes me happy.
Yeah, it's cool. I'll have a think. I'll see what other weird and wonderful stuff I can try and come up with.
Alright, now I just have one question about your Scizor deck. You talked about the majority of stuff, like the Scoop Up Cyclone, the Absol.
Yeah.
But I know you said that you wanted to cut the Dedini and the Giovanni Scheme for 2 Mega Turbos.
Yes. Well, the reason I in my first list I played Mega Turbo for the standard, and other in the top 4 game, I didn't use them all day. Because in standard you don't have the laser Verbank, the dot patches, nothing can really one-shot you. And so you can afford to manually attach, and just sort of power up things that way. The Mega Turbos did nothing in that one game, literally. I don't think I played one all day before that. So I thought, right, I didn't really use them, I'm going to cut them. And it was a bit naive of me. It was sort of Friday night, the regionals was Saturday morning. I thought, right, I'm going to cut them, put a few more consistency cards in, a Dedenne as well to deal with Biggie Vettel. And it came back to bite me because against my little brother, he got a big knockout, which I didn't see coming. Which meant I had no energy on board. I didn't have access to get the Dedenne out, and even if I did, I attached the Dedenne. He knocks it out next turn, and then I've got no energy on board again. So it was too slow to not play Mega Turbo. I think 2 is the right number, just because if you can keep the pressure up with attacking with Mega Scizor, then you're absolutely fine. But yeah, it was a mistake to take them out. It was a bit naive basing it on standard. I hadn't tested enough with the deck to really get the maths right with your Vettel and how much damage they can do. But yeah, it was definitely a bad play.
Okay. Besides that, everything else you keep the same?
Yeah, I think so. I like the counts. Like if you could find space for it, I would like to keep a Giovanni's in, because there's instances where you can Giovanni, Laser Verbank, and KO 170 HP Pokemon, which is nice. But I think I only did that once the whole day. It wasn't as important as I thought it was. I play a lot of one-off supporters. I do have Jirachi and sort of Scoop Up Cyclone to give me more access to them. But perhaps a Battle Compressor or 2, if you're playing Mega Turbos as well, would be nice. But again, it's just finding the space. You could cut out some supporters, but with Getsys still floating around in pretty much every deck, it's a risk. You got to calculate the risk versus reward in terms of being Getsys out of a game.
That's very true. Alright, man. Well, I mean, we covered a lot about Scizor. I think you've talked pretty much everything about it. I'm still surprised that it's not Bronzong. I mean, when I heard, I was like, oh, it's a Bronzong. It has to be. And I was like, nope, no Bronzong. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, do you want to give any shout outs to anybody?
Give a shout out to my team Custard Cream, my brother, Tamal, James, Alex Dow. We've got a pretty good team. Sort of last year, we all sort of got our invites, so it was good. We had a good season. We're on the way to doing it again this year, so I'm pleased for everyone. It was a good season, and let's try and get this top 22.
Yeah, that would be really cool to get it. And if you get another top cut, let me know. We'll do another interview. Especially if you play that Houndoom Vileplume thing.
I'll give it my best, don't worry.
Alright, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. And thanks for watching. Hope you learned something new about Mega Scizor. I know I did. First time we ever heard about this deck. So it was very cool that you helped out with the list, too. So it's pretty cool to see it and everything. So thank you for that.
No worries, mate.
Alright, guys. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Alrighty. Bye.